Hey guys, Brian from Boas here. Well, if you've been following the channel, you know I had quite a few litters born in the last few weeks, and I actually ran out of baby rack space, so I had to build this baby Boa Rack pretty quickly. Today I want to give you a quick look at it. I'm also going to say a little bit about the new types of tubs that I used, as well as the new heat tape, and we'll have a look at my latest baby true red-tailed boas, so be sure to stay tuned for that. When you're breeding boas, one of the things you need to worry about, of course, is housing all the babies. And I had rack space enough for about 100 baby boas, but with the last litter of true red-tailed boas a few weeks ago, I actually ran out of rack space. So I put together these racks pretty quickly, and I've actually gone in depth about how I build these racks before in a previous video, so check that out for the details. But I just wanted to show you some little tweaks I made on this time that I set the racks up, as well as some considerations. So this particular rack is about 35 inches wide by about 26 inches high by about 14.5 inches deep, and you can just make it from just a single sheet of plywood. It's a 4x8 sheet of 1/2 inch plywood. You could use 5/8 inch plywood as well, or even 3/4, but would be really overkill. I wouldn't go any thinner than a 1/2 inch though, because then it gets too thin and too hard to screw together. But it's fairly easy to make. The price of the wood and cutting the wood at my local sawmill, or lumber yard rather, was about $50, and that's expensive for a sheet of plywood, but they also cut it into 3 14 by 8 foot sheets, and so that saves me having to cut it at home as much, which is really helpful. And so then I just cut the shelves down to size, sand it and screw it together. I also put a little strip in the back to retain the tubs, but I went over this a lot in my video that I did previously, so check that one out. But this time around, a few things that were a little bit different. So the first is I tried to get the Sterilite tubs that I had used before. These are the shoebox size, and unfortunately they didn't have them at my local big box store. They had like a different shape and size, so I ended up ordering some on Amazon, and they've actually changed the shape of these a little bit. They basically made it so it tapers more, and so that the edges are rounder, they're not as flat. And the sizes are a little bit different. It's actually a little bit longer, a little bit narrower. And it worked out fine for me because I left a little bit of excess at the top. But it's kind of annoying that they changed the shape of these, So these actually don't take up quite as much space on the shelf, so there's a little bit of a gap. It's okay to have the extra room. In fact, I probably could have made this about 1 inch or 2 less wide, and it would have held these tubs fine, but that's okay. So you can see in the tubs I have this little 5-ounce deli cup that's held in place with a zip tie, and basically I'll use this for the water. Rather than putting the water directly in, I'll use another 5-ounce deli cup to just sit inside. That way the babies can't knock it over. I'll use a sheet of paper towels as a substrate, and then just put in a simple hiding place, and that's fine for these baby boas. And they can stay in these tubs for about 6 months or so, then they start getting a little too big. I have another rack I built with the larger shoebox size, and my really big baby boas I'll put in those. But these are fine for most baby boas for probably at least 6 months, until they're established and they're ready to go to their new homes. This particular rack has 5 shelves, each of which hold 4 tubs, so it will hold a total of 20 of the tubs. And I just have it connected together with screws. These are, just basic 1.5 inch number 6 wood screws, but you could use lots of different types of screws. It's not critical. The only thing is it's a little tricky with this 1/2 inch plywood. When you're screwing it in place, you don't have that much room, so there's not much room for error because it's not that thick of a piece of wood. So it's pretty easy to have the screw either break through the bottom or break through the top. So you have to be a little bit careful. And then I always pre-drill pivot holes for the screws, just so that I can, the screw will go in easy. And it works pretty well. So this particular design, I don't need like a frame on the bottom to support it. The pieces can just screw directly together. But for larger racks I built, it's really helpful to have like a frame on the bottom of 2x4s that the sides can be, kind of screwed in better to so it's a much sturdier rack. But for the small rack, it doesn't have to be quite as sturdy. And so I'm going to give you a close look. One thing that's different is the heat tape I've used. I used the new TSK heat tape. I had been using the FlexWatt heat tape in the past, and the TSK has some advantages which they claim are better for reptile keepers. My initial impression, it does have some advantages. I don't know for sure if it's better or not. That's to be seen, but I'll give you a quick look at it close up. I intend to do a future video with a more in-depth comparison of the TSK reptile heat tape with the FlexWatt heat tape, just to give you my my overall impressions of the pros and cons of each. So stay tuned for that. But now let's take a quick look at the details of this this rack right here.
So there's the tubs, and they just kind of slide out like this, and I've left enough slight amount of clearance so I can pull them out, but not enough that the baby boa can escape through this through the gap. So it's important to get the clearance right. And so you can see in the back the heat tape. Let me just take a close-up look at that. There's the TSK heat tape in the back, and I use the 6-inch wide tape, and each piece is about 33 inches. I have it held down with some aluminum foil tape. That's the view from the front. There's the view from the back, and so you can see the heat tape just being held in place with this aluminum foil tape. So one of the things that the instruction said was not to let the aluminum foil tape overlap with the electrical elements. So it's got this copper bus bar, they call it, and this is the heating elements. This is these little black stripes or lines, but they warn you not to let this aluminum tape touch the copper area where the electricity is. And so basically I had to kind of painstakingly tape just the edge, and there's only about 1/4 inch to the edge of the copper, so it's kind of tedious. And that's why the heat tape is kind of overlapping like this, because only a little bit actually touches the actual heat mat, and most of it is kind of folded over on this is the guard that prevents the tubs from sliding out. And so when I had used my FlexWatt heat tape, I basically just taped it all down, and I overlapped the aluminum foil tape with the heat mats, touching all the electrical components, and it seems to work fine. However, I did notice sometimes I would feel like a tingling, like an electricity. So it's possible, or it appears likely, that the electricity is actually can get out of the heat tape into the aluminum foil, and then if you touch it, you can get shocked. And so I think it's okay with my FlexWatt. With this stuff, I just was a little more careful. But what I don't understand, this stuff is kind of insulated with plastic, so electricity shouldn't be getting through the plastic into the heat tape, even if it's overlapping. But I love to hear if you guys have any experience using foil tape with either FlexWatt or this TSK heat tape or any other heat tape, and whether it's okay to overlap or not, if you might get electrocuted, or even better yet, if you have experience with a type of tape other than the foil tape that works on heat tape, please let me know, because this foil tape, it can be a real pain to use, as you may be aware if you've tried using it. So other than that, you can see this is just the retaining strip. This is a 2-inch strip of wood at the back, just to prevent the tubs from being pushed all the way out or babies escaping out the back. And pretty simple construction overall. And so you can see I've attached, or I've installed 3 of the heat tapes. They're connected together in a parallel circuit, and I haven't put the heat tape on the bottom 2 shelves yet, but that's the last thing to do, and then they'll be ready for the baby. Now we're going to have a look at my latest born true red tails. This is a litter of Surinames, born about 2 weeks ago, and there they are. It's a quite a lovely sight, the stuff that boa breeding dreams are made of. And these guys have all shed. They shed a few days ago, so they're ready for their individual tubs. But of course, since I ran out of baby space, I've just been keeping them together, and they seem to be really enjoying each other's company. And just beautiful red tails and beautiful patterns, mostly peaked, some a little bit more peaked than others.
Some a little cleaner background, some a little more busy background, but lots of nice looking true red tails. There's a little closer of a view, and you can see a lot of them just kind of chill out and enjoy each other's company. They don't really move around all that much. There's one kind of slithering around on the side. But really happy with this litter. These are Prometheus bloodline Suriname true red tails. And they're pretty big, these babies. I don't know if my hand helps give you some scale, but they're probably about, 22 inches or so, close to 2 feet long. And so I'll move them into the new rack as soon as I get the heating installed on the bottom, and then they'll get their first meal. So I expect they'll be in their new rack within the next few days. And then I can offer them their first meal, probably like a large, fuzzy, small hopper size mouse. And a lot of really nice animals here. In fact, if I didn't have so many Surinames already, I probably would hold back at least, 2 or 3 of them. But being that I have so many Surinames, I'll probably end up letting them all go. So you have the opportunity to pick up a really world-class example of a Suriname true red tail for a pet or future breeder. So I expect these animals will be up for sale probably in the next month and a half or two, probably around maybe early October. And I know a lot of people are interested, but I'll get to them as fast as I can. I can't really hurry this. I just want to make sure that they're all doing well and ready to go before they're off to their new homes. So just bear with me. I do expect that some of my other animals, including my litter of Surinames born in May, will be available in probably the next week or so. So stay tuned to the channel for updates on the available animals. And I'll give you all the information that you need to see the animals and make a decision about whether you want to add them to your collection. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and it was somewhat entertaining and helpful. Shoot me any questions or comments you have. Thanks for watching and enjoy your boas.